Okay. I got cut down, so sorry. I'll just.
So for clarity and transparency, I'll just repeat something that I just said to the councillors, which is that as we go through the report today, we need to make sure that any reasons that we give for rejecting anything in the report needs to refer to the documents in front of us, the submissions, the commissioner's evidence, in order for us to be able to move a recommendation that's clear to everybody today. I'd remind everybody that we're under a statutory process with this, and that's the advice that I have. So, we'll go back to the
just point of clarity, Mayor. A point of clarity on that.
You want to ask me something about that?
Yeah.
Yeah?
That's
Sure.
okay. So, is it the expectation that we say on a recommendation that's put forward with that's a live issue and we give reasons, that then the staff would go away and
No.
frame that up for us
No.
and send a submission? So
No,
how's the submission
we
being
are
sent?
responsible for providing our reasons. We're like commissioners. We're responsible for framing up our own reasoning in order to push. In
No,
order
I understand
to
that.
push back on the
So,
issues.
okay, the question then would be, is the submission going to be sent as an oral submission from this meeting, or how is the submission going to be sent? You're saying the staff aren't going
I
to
can
write
get
the
staff.
submission.
I can get staff to clarify that. We're still in question.
So it will be
time.
taken from an oral submission without any work from staff. Is that what you're saying?
Not doing any oral submissions.
Thank you, Councillor. Today's the day. Today's the day to get precise about the reasons for any of the panel's recommendations, if Council wanted to reject any. So the wording does need to be landed for the reasoning today. I don't believe, but Andrew, correct me if I'm wrong, that there's anything specific in the way of like a template that we need to follow for what the letter to the minister looks like, or the email or whatever, but it just has to make sure that it covers everything in, I think, clauses 101 and 102 of the RMA. So yes, there's direction. Yes, today's the day, but whether it's an email or a letter or that kind of thing. However, Andrew is going to confirm what I know.
Sorry, it's not a however. It's that table that is in the report is designed so you can achieve your statutory requirements. So you fill that table out, it achieves the statutory requirements for information to the minister.
Yeah, so the table that we move and second today is what gets sent to the minister. Is that right? Yeah.
So in that table, the reasoning for us pushing back on something, who actually writes that reasoning if the council staff aren't going to write it? Are we writing it?
We write it today.
We are writing it today.
Yeah. Or we should have written, if we had something to push back on, we should have written it before today.
Yeah, well, with all due
ideally.
respect, from a procedural point of view, that hasn't been explained to the elected members that we're expected.
We have had this paper since Friday with a clear table that needs to be passed, moved and seconded today.
Yes, I understand that.
You can't leave a blank table.
But were we told that it was going to be our submission to the minister
we have
that
been told
needed to be typed up by the end of the meeting?
Well,
Were we?
just if you've got a table that's presented in an agenda and a recommendation, then you would expect that table needs to be completed for the recommendation to be moved and seconded and voted on.
So we're sending stuff to a minister that doesn't have any framing around it of reasons why.
Sorry, so I think I just want to clarify. The table that you have, that's going to focus your decisions today, if you are going to make any changes or amendments, we'd be recording those depending on which option that you are deciding you're agreeing to. We are going to record succinctly and ideally referencing your reasons back to the material that you've been given, why? So that will be coming through. The Mayor had noted that we would adjourn the meeting if we needed to have some discussion so that we could land those points and record them so that we could then, at the end of the session, agree what's in that table. There will be a letter that accompanies it, obviously. We're going to write to the Minister, but you have to make your choices today. They are your reasons. So what we're trying to say to you is, in the background, we're not going to go and make up the reasons. You're doing that today.
I'll just point out that the usual decision today would be to either accept the panel's recommendations or not. That we're even thinking of changing the plan is a little bit out of the ordinary, but it's an option that's open to us. I've got Rob online. So we're still in question time.
Oh, sorry, me, is it?
No, it's Rob online.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you, Madam Chair. Just to get the ball rolling, can we have a recommendation that we limit the building heights to 4 stories until we have
So I'm not moving to recommendations right now. I'm just still clarifying process by way of extending question time.
A change that we limit the building heights until we have an urban plan.
No, I think that's something you'd have to bring to the table with the reasons behind it as a recommendation. I don't think we can provide an answer to that. It's not a question. Councillor Wilson?
Yeah, just to Glenn's point, in terms of the table itself is obviously quite small, and so if there's an objection, a substantial objection, in terms of being able to provide context and evidence, and if that's coming from a variety of people, I'm not quite sure who does the condensing of it. So I know, but can you imagine the workshopping? And I mean, Sophie could get ChatGPT to write it for us, but being able to condense a whole bunch of reasons, some of which will be presumably debatable. I'm just not sure about that process, and so the last point of clarification for me is and we've heard that today is the end stop, but given the paper that's just been circulated,
Tim, do you have a comment to make? Sorry.
This could take a while.
Sorry, if I could just...
You need to speak into a microphone, please, Tim.
If I could just clarify, the reasons for rejecting a panel recommendation should come out of evidence that has been put before the panel. So if you were inclined to reject a panel recommendation, I would expect that the table would refer to submissions or evidence that has been put before the panel, because that's the only relevant basis for rejecting a recommendation that the panel has come up with. Does that sort of help?
Yeah, it does.
No.
Just further that you might be able to clarify this, and that is that if there is evidence that the panel didn't hear that you believe that an individual councillor may believe is germane to the decision that they made, then that would provide context. Wouldn't provide evidence, but it might provide context for it.
So my response to that is you're precluded from taking into account information that elected members hold that wasn't put before the panel.
Yeah, so these reasons don't have to be an essay. They just need to refer to the submitter that you have identified that you agree with, or the response that you agree with, or something in the Commissioner's report where you feel they've failed to analyse the situation properly and you disagree with it. And then, so it's quite simple, because you can't be bringing anything new to the table. It has to be something that's in the papers or the material that the papers refer to. It's not all in our appendices, but it's pretty much all referred to, and that we've been going over quite carefully as we prepare for this decision today. So it's not sudden. We've had some time with this information. We've had plenty of time to assimilate it and work out what in there do we have a problem with. It's not what we think about it. It's not what we've heard from other people. It's about what's in these documents that we agree with or not. We're in quite a tight time in this process, so we're going to keep it quite tight. I understand that we do have an appetite to consider various changes and communicate those to the Minister for a decision. So I am going to move. I have advice that we're able to move to, I'll just make sure I get it right. Oh, my apologies. We just had to finish off the clarification around the Te Atiawa submission before we go to that. My apologies. Sorry, got swept up in the process discussion.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So yes, Andre just before the break highlighted that it was important that, thank you, that Te Atiawa's position on submitter requested rezonings was made clear, and it was agreed that the safe way to do that was to make sure that we read directly from the Te Atiawa further submission on submitter requested rezonings. So I'm going to do that now, and I'm going to read it word for word.
So just to be clear, this is not new information.
That's right. This is from the Te Atiawa further submission to the Plan Change 2 process. So in respect of submitter requested rezonings, the Te Atiawa further submission states, and I quote, insufficient information has been provided in the submission to adequately assess the effects of the proposal, and I quote again, KCDC has a future urban development plan change scheduled as part of implementing the district growth strategy. It may be more appropriate to consider submitters' requests for rezoning as part of that plan change. And in the decision sought, Te Atiawa state, and I quote again, seek further assessment of environmental effects, including Section 6 RMA matters and cumulative effects of rezoning all or some of the proposed sites or deferring for future plan change. I think.
Point of clarity, Madam Mayor?
I don't think we should discuss that too much. What we're doing is just Andre Baker had identified that something had been that wanted some correction around some information that was given.
I don't know what this is, but I know that this is the further submission.
What point of clarity are you requiring?
Just what this is in relation to. That's a pretty general comment. Is this in relation to the Otahanga block? Is that correct?
Is it in specifically, or all of the zone requests?
Correct. Councillor Halliday, it was those two particular sites that I mentioned.
Yeah, so 2 sites.
I believe actually that there's quite a long list of sites. There's a number of submissions that are cited here. There's quite a few. So the further submission number. Andrew, I think looking at the title of this, it may be 100.
Yep.
Thank you.
Could I ask another point of clarity in relation to this, Madam Chair?
Sure.
The Mansell project's already consented and has gone through an appeals process, which determination's been
So,
passed?
so what you're saying isn't actually reflected in the report. All that information is in the report. Rather than summarising the report in a non-factual way, just go straight to any question that you'd have.
Atiawa ki whakarongotai have just pretty much referred to the fact that they haven't, or don't feel like they've been involved from a consultation perspective. Am I correct in that assertion?
I wouldn't. That's a bit like questioning a witness at a submission. I wouldn't go there.
All right. It's safe.
We just have to take that as read. It's what's in the documents. It's what was submitted. That's the only reason it's been said. It's in relation to a number of rezoning requests.
Yep.
It's been read out in order to provide some clarity, and I'd quite like to just leave it there.
Yep.
I don't want to take a whole lot of questions
the-
around
the-
it
the-
because
the
that's a
previous
bit like
consent
cross-examining
Is in the
a
documentation.
submission.
The previous consent, the current consent is in the documentation. I just wanted some clarity. It seems unusual to me. It's fine. No, that's all right. I can make my decisions based around what my views are. That's fine.
Yeah, I just think to answer your question, we'd have to go through quite a lot of history that's outlined in the report in terms of the various processes that that piece of land's gone through. It's in the report. So I do understand that councillors are wanting to go to option 3, which is to accept in part. At least I've had notification that Councillor Kirby would like to move something to that effect. So I will go to that now. So it's on page 9 of... So question time has ended. I'm not seeing any lights. So page 9, and this is to... So we're going B1. We'll just take that for the moment. So this is B1. And I'll ask for a mover. I don't know if we can move and second until we've filled out the table. How do we? Yeah. So some information's been circulated. The table's on the screen. So I guess I'm asking for a mover for that. Yeah, do we have a printout of that yet? Yeah, no, yeah, there's more information than what we've been given. Do we have a hard copy of that as I requested? Yeah, no, I think we all need a hard copy of that. So we'll just pause for a minute while that's circulated.
Can I just clarify whether we need to complete the table for all changes that people want to make?
Yes, we do.
In one hit? Before we vote on it, or can we take them one by one?
So Lawrence, do you want to move this? And then we'll circulate it. I'll second it, just to put it on the table. And then we'll circulate it.
Hey.
Yeah. So what I'm proposing to do is take this as the initial motion, and then we can add to the table, but if by way of amendments. So somebody would so the mover and the seconder are moving this as the table, and then if anybody wants to make any further changes, they would move and second that as an amendment, and then that would be added to the table. I think that would be the cleanest way to do it.
I have a question.
So we're just going to circulate that. It's not question time, it's debate time.
So this is in relation, this is new information you've said. So you say to the table, What about additions to the item that is actually to individual items within that table?
That's what I'm referring to.
Okay, rather than, okay, thank you.
So any additional items would be moved as an amendment. Yeah, so we'll adjourn the meeting for 5 minutes while we wait for hard copies of this. Actually, probably 10 to give people time to read it as well. Thank you.